Hello.
I am news reporter Vicky Stone on today's debate. We are live today with freelance journalist Ashley Brown and French government representative Nathan Walker to discuss the controversial secularism that has been enacted in France since 1905. The secular laws, known as laïcité in France, revolve around the idea of equality in regions through public restrictions. Recently, 2 immigrant teens were killed and one was severely injured when they were running away from the police and hid in a power station. These deaths have started severe rioting in youths. Ms. Brown has been publicly condemning the government for these riots, as they have been the result of lots of tension. Mr. Walker is a representative of the government today to argue the motives of these laws and how they positively affect the French way of life.
How does
laïcité create cultural equality?
laïcité
allows all religions to thrive because creating a connection between church and state would create a dominant religion, for example, Britain and America. When creating a religious public sphere, people usually feel pressured by dominant religions, like Catholicism, and even some religions involve stressing others to join, like
Mormonism.
With these pressures, people can practice the pure form of their religion without having the pressure of popular religions.
Interesting. What is your opinion on this situation? People should have every right
to practice their religions freely and proudly. Your faith is a major part of your identity, and by making people feel like they have to keep it a secret, we are creating a society of clones. By creating the society of what the government has deemed normal citizens, we are losing what makes our world diverse. Without diversity in our world becomes void of individual thinking.
How do
The recent deaths of Ziad Benna and Bouana Traoré strengthen your fight against the laïcité.
Youth feel like they need to hide a major part of what makes them individuals. Teaching our youth that if you don't fit into a normal standard, you should be ashamed. This essentially is a form of bullying. When you force upon youth your opinion, it creates a clockwork orange effect, making youth uncomfortable with their identity, expression, and natural desires. These laws are really just asking for rebellious youth movements.
Ah, very insightful. What about you? What do you have to say? I'm glad you mentioned the
Orange, because I am against the thought that you should be able to do whatever you wish to others, especially when the antagonist in the book causes such atrocious delinquencies. You should be thankful that
their
ancestral religions are able to thrive so well in their personal lives, but the rioters need to realize that the public spheres are important to keep pure from universalization. Schools must stress this in their education, and if everything falls through, we will have a society free of oppressive religions.
How do the recent
The deaths of Ziad Benna and Bouana Traoré strengthen your fight against the laïcité.
Recent deaths showed that the biased racial oppression against immigrants that happens in the ghettos. Police are constantly harassing them, even using physical abuse, even when youth could just be playing football. These people live in abject conditions. They are unemployed, mistreated by the authorities, and in a constant state of fear. Those kids right now, if the police hadn't been chasing them because they were immigrants.
I can't believe
That this sort of racism is still going on in the 21st century.
that is a good point. How about you, Governor? There is
No evidence of any mistreatment of police in the ghettos, only speculation by the immigrants themselves. The immigrants may have a higher unemployment, however that is a problem that has nothing to do with government policy. All immigrants have equal rights as long as they leave their religions at home.
where it belongs.
Those teenagers shouldn't have run away from the police because as a policeman, that shows that you are guilty. They should have cooperated with the police.
The last question for today has to do with the history of the laïcité. The true
The trigger of these policies is from the feminist groups who believe the hijabs and niqabs are oppressive, subjective, and alienation against women. Do you agree with these policies?
feminists have
Way too much power in the government. Feminists seem to think that anything in a culture that was implemented by a man is sexually unequal. Hijabs and niqabs show the modest nature by refraining men from admiring them. This shows the willingness to protect their own sanctity, which is very important to their culture. Protecting your sanctity and being oppressed are completely different things. This is a feminist ploy to create more restrictions on things that only they don't agree with.
Your reply, Governor?
Hijabs and niqabs are important to Islamic culture, but only after the Taliban implemented them. Hijabs and niqabs are Taliban culture, a culture of oppression against women, and it is a culture we will not tolerate in our
Country.
Women deserve to be treated equally in our country, especially immigrants from tyrannical countries. We are taking away the oppression from their culture.
That's all for now. I am news reporter Vicky Stone. Thank you for joining us.